Susie, where's my Tzurba?
Here.
I didn't see it. Okay. There she goes.
I'm gonna go.
So did you cut a piece of this?
Yeah.
What time is it? 7:58. We have 2 minutes.
Time.
Yeah, let me have a piece. Brushing, scrubbing. In modern Hebrew, the verb chafifa is used with respect to washing hair, but its original use in halacha context is subject to debate, as we're going to see. The various Rishonim have a little bit of a discussion as to what it constitutes chafifa. In the previous 2 chapters, we discussed the halachos related to a need to removing the various chatzitzos obstructions before immersing in a mikveh to purify yourself. In this chapter, we turn our attention to the detailed halachos and guidelines relating to a woman's preparations for immersion, which ensure that she will not have any chatzitzos on her body. So there's a tradition brought in the Gemara in Baba Kama that Ezra Sofer and his Beis Din formalized the obligation for a woman to wash in preparation for immersion. It's not just a minig. This was a takana set up by Ezra Sofer. So, oh, is that Jerry? Oh, that's my email. Okay, so Asara Takonas Tiken Ezra. This is Baba Kama Pei Beis Amid Aleph to Amid Beis. Asar made 10 takonos. One of the takonos is Shetei Isha Choifefes V'Toiveles. So here's where the term comes in. She requires chafifa and then go to the mikveh. And Doraisahi has the status of Doraisa, the Tanya. The Rochatz Es Besaro B'Mayim. She has to wash her flesh in water. And there should be no chatzitza between her and the water. The es besaro, the es is darshaned, es atofel besaro. That means, besides the flesh, umayniu seyar, refers to her hair. The hair has a tendency to get knotted, clumped, and that could be a chatzitza. So therefore, there's a special din of washing the hair to untangle or unclog the hair. Amri Doraisa Liyune Dilma Mikter. That Minatorah, you have to inspect the hair to make sure that it's not knotted. Or there's some other dirt in her hair. That means she's required Minatorah to evaluate. And so what's the takana? Asaiu tiken chafifa. And Ezra came to say, well, it's not just enough to inspect, you have to wash it. And Rashi adds, b'masreik laharchaka demilsa, and you have to use a comb as well to make sure that there's no knotted. According to the Gemara then, examining the body for potential chatzitzos is a doraisa requirement. And the chafifa was a rabbinic requirement by Ezra to wash and scrub oneself prior to tefillah. The Rishonim discussed the exact nature of this washing. Are we talking about washing your hair? Or are we talking about washing the whole body? The Rosh first cites the opinion of Rashi that chafifa applies to the whole body, but then quotes the approach of Rashi's family member, Rabbeinu Tam, that it applies specifically to washing one's hair. So, Machlokes Rashi Rabbeinu Tam holds that it's just the hair, and Rashi holds the whole body. V'din chafifa, says the Rosh in Nida. Kosav Rav Reb Shmai b'shem Rashi, the chafifa ave b'chol aguf. So this washing that we're talking about is washing your whole body. Kidarmin b'perek kol kisvei. Somebody has a tattoo, Yud Ke Vav Ke, on his body. He's not allowed to wash himself, because if he washes it off, he's going to be He's going to erase Hashem's name. Now, there it clearly doesn't refer to the hair; it refers to your body, and yet it uses the language yichov, which is chafifa. However, v'gir sazu lesa hasam, ela lo yirchotz v'lo yisach. So the Rosh disagrees and says he checked the girsa there. It doesn't say yachuf. It says you shouldn't wash, you shouldn't smear yourself with oil. So there's no raya from there that chafifa refers to washing the body. And immediately Rosh throws in Rabbeinu Tam Pirish, the chafifa lo yishrach ela b'rosh, l'makom haseir. That chafifa means scrubbing your hair. V'lo huskar chafifa b'chol makom mishas ela b'makom haseir. And the Rosh says, or maybe I think it's Rabbeinu Tam continues, to say that we don't see the word chafifa referring to anything else except the hair. There it talks about Hillel scrubbing his head. A nazir shampoos and mefaspes is like separating the hairs. He's not allowed to comb his hair. Now, why? A nazir is not allowed to take a haircut. So if a nazir combs his hair, he might be over a lav of pulling out one of his hairs. But you notice the Rosh is bringing multiple proofs that chafifa refers just to the hair. He also refers us back to the original takon of Ezra, where parich midoraisihi dichsiv rachatz tzurba m'Rabanan shloyei dover choitzeitz umishani. What do you mean midoraisa? Then why would Ezra have to do a takana? So that's how he would explain. Midoraisa liyune dilun mikter. Midoraisa, you have a requirement. The woman has a requirement to examine herself. But this Ezra tikin chafifa. Now, what was the whole problem there? Is to examine to make sure there's no knots in your hair. So chafifa is to undo that. So v'lishta de mikter lo shayach ela b'seyar. You have knots in your hair, not anywhere else. So the Rosh held that the rest of the body didn't require washing, just the hair. However, the Rosh wrote that the practice of Jewish women is to wash their whole bodies before tefillah. The noagu, so he says it's not Meikar Adin. It's become a minig of B'nai Yisrael, lochuf kol gufam, uminag kosherhu. So already Rosh in Toledo in 1260, that's a long time ago, 800 years ago, told us that the minig of B'nai Yisrael is to wash their bodies before tefillah. The Rashba, 100 years later in Barcelona, added that the obligation of chafifa includes not only washing the hair, but also combing the hair. This is the Torah Sabayis. A woman, before she goes to the mikveh, has to make sure that there's nothing on her body that's going to be a separation between her and the water. That of something, items that she's makpid, that like dirt and all the other things we discussed, that she wants to get rid of. She has to check her own hair, ubipsara, and in her flesh, on her skin, that there's no disgusting thing on her body that would be considered a chatzitza. Maybe there's a hair that's knotted. And the Rashba says, Ezra Bezdino tiknu shetei isha chofeves kol makom seir shaba. Women wash their bodies everywhere there's hair. The soirekes b'masrek, she combs her hair, almost paspesis b'yodav, or she separates hair by hair. Kidei shlo yusaru sekshun, so that the hair will not be knotted to each other. And then he brings the minig of the Rosh Kvar Noagub Nos Yisrael Lachot Kol Gufan. Ulashatef b'mayim. Here comes an important word, chamin. She has to wash herself in warm water, not cold water. B'shas chafifa. Uminig yafahu lahen. and it's a good minig v'chein roy lanigon, and that's they should be instructed like this. Kedei shetilen shmir yafa b'chol gufa. And this position is adopted by the Shulchan Aruch. That Chafifa, no. That's one of them. Somebody signed in or somebody signed out. Yeah. That in addition to inspecting herself, both washing the entire body and washing and combing the hair is required. This is your Dea Kuf Tzadik test. Tzricha ulisrok she'er rosha yofa b'masrik. She has to comb her hair. Shlotiena saroset nibokos, the hair shouldn't be stuck to each other. She has to check herself, her body. So prior to going to mikvah, she has to check herself. It's no chatzitza. She has to wash her whole body. Again, chamin. She has to rinse herself with warm water. At the time that she washes her body and her hair. The language of the Rashba, quoted above, and the other Rishonim, seem to indicate that a woman must make use of a comb in cleaning every place where she has hair. Or the Shach notes that the current practice is to separate the hair by hand everywhere, except for the hair on top of her head, which she can use a comb. Says the Shach, V'lisrok se'ar rosha, comments on when the Shulchan Aruch says you have to comb the hair. Lashon Ramban, shehevi atur. The tour, if you go through the tour, he brings the Ramban that Ezra bezdito tiknu shetei choifefes b'chol makom se'ar sheba b'mayim chamim. That the takon of Ezra was that she has to wash every place where she has hair with warm water. The soirekas oison, she has to comb there over yafa, or separate each strand with her hand. Ad kan l'shono of the Ramban. V'chein kosav harashba, Torah Sabayis HaKotzer. Umevio Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef, the commentary on the tour, brought the Rashba. Muvur medivreim. So the Shach says, if you learn the Ramban, brought by the tour, and you learn the Rashba, brought by the Beis Yosef, the Hadatik and Ezra Shetei Isha Chofefes, that which Ezra made the takana, Hainu b'chol makom se'ar. He was dafka worried about places of hair, like Kugon Se'ar Beis HaShechi, armpit, Ubeis HaErva, and near the genitalia. And Lo Se'ar Rosha Bilvad wasn't just referring to the hair on her head. V'chein mashma Rabbeinu Nisim, Ushar Poskim, the Ran and other Poskim, V'chein Kozav Abayis Chadash, the Bach, who's the commentary on the tour, says the Shach lived late 1600s. He's the Shach and the Taz were the main commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch and Yordeya. Achshav noagu lisrok se'ar roshan b'masrei. The minig of the Jewish women is to comb their hair. Usar she'er shaba, the other hair, armpit hair, the other hair, that she doesn't have to use a comb. Mifaspeses oison biadeh yafa yafa, she has to separate the hairs with her hand carefully. Some poskim, such as Rav Yitzchak Rubin and Mara Cohen, specify that she must comb her hair specifically after washing rather than before. Combing should be after washing her hair. When the hair is still wet. He says you're not yotzei the combing aspect, because the Shach has brought that part of the Chafifa is the combing. So if a woman combs her hair before she washes her hair, that's not going to, her Chafifa is going to be lacking. So they should be instructed to wash their hair and then comb it. So we already see a number of sources mentioned using hot water. I emphasized when we read Chamin, right? And this halacha comes from the following passage from the Gemara Nida. In Omra Meimer Rava, Isha lo tochuf ela b'chamin, that this chafifa has to be done in warm water. Afilu b'chamei chama, even in very hot water, or water heated by the sun. Aval lo b'tzoni, not in cold water. Why not? Sorry, my time lo mishum dekriu mashrim mazya. The Gemara felt that cold water makes the hair clump even more. So don't use cold water. Now, the Rishonim debate the meaning of this Gemara's ambiguous explanation as to why cold water does not satisfy Chafifa. According to Rashi, cold water causes the hair to harden and does not remove the dirt. Rashi, on commenting the words Demishru Mazia, Rashi says Makshin Sa'aros, makes the hair harden. Ve'ein l'chlucha noiver, and the dirt in the hair isn't cleaned well by the cold water. However, the Rambam explains that cold water causes the hair to become knotted. Lo tochu vel b'chamin, says the Rambam in Hilchos Mikvos. Afilu b'chamin chama, mipnei shachamin meishornis haseir. The water straightens it, u'mesalsins, causes it to be curled. Avalat soinin mekabtzinis haseir, clumps it, u'melavlu v'noisu miskasher, so that it becomes easily knotted. And the Shulchan Aruch adopts this view, that the reason for the avoiding cold water is the knotting problem. It says Shulchan Aruch in Siman Beis of Kuf Tzadik Tes, Chafifa shebemokum seir lo tia b'mayim karim, lefi mesapchim l'saseir, it entangles the hair. Rather, it should be done b'mayim chamim, umi afilu b'chamim chamasagi. Even sun-heated water suffices. Poskim, I'm looking at the footnote. I don't know why this is going on like this. Poskim discuss whether actual hot water is necessary or lukewarm water is acceptable. Chochmas Adam, who's the Chaya Adam, allows lukewarm water. But the Badei HaShulchan, who's a contemporary Sefer on Yordeya, comments that most other authorities simply discuss using hot water, indicating that actual hot water is required. The Badei HaShulchan is lenient in case of need, though ideally hot water should be used. That's what Reforce brings in the laws of Nida. The concern for knotted hair applies not only when using cold water, but also when using those shampoos and cleaning agents that are likely to harden and entangle the hair. And Rava already pointed that out in the Gemara Nida. Rava Isha lo tochav lo b'neser. Neser, they translate as natron. V'lo b'chol, not with sand. B'neser mishum demekatev. It pulls out the hair. U'v'chol mishum demasrich. And if you use sand, it causes it to be sticky. And therefore that would itself be a chatzitza. And the Shulchan Aruch brings it la'alocha. Lo tochav b'neser. You shouldn't use neser. It does become entangled. Ohel is like aloe. That also entangles the hair. Any substance that causes entanglement. So while the Talmud and early poskim saw cleansing agents as hindering preparations for tefillah, contemporary poskim rule that modern soaps and shampoos are entirely permitted to use, as they do not entangle the hair. And that's brought by the Marakoyim. He says women should not use agents that cause entanglement. But with soap and shampoo, that most people use that are what people wash their hair with that. We know that it doesn't cause the hair to be knotted, mutter. So it's completely permitted. Rav Yashiv Noel adds in the Dine Chatzit in Ish Ve'isha, adds that a woman whose hair tends to get knotted may also use conditioner, provided she rinses out her hair with hot water afterwards. That's a conditioner. The conditioner should be washed out with hot water. The conditioner itself is not a chatzitza. After you rinse it with hot water, there's nothing really on it. It's not significant to be considered a chatzitza.
Isn't that true of shampoo as well? You have to rinse it out with hot water also, not just conditioner.
Right.
Or why they sort of
Notice
distinguish.
the Mara Cohen didn't just said that in general the soaps and the shampoos we use today are not known to entangle the hair. But yes, you'd have to rinse it out because there could be a residue left, and that would have to be rinsed out. Otherwise, that would be potentially a problem.
Yeah, so it's no different than conditioner.
No, although yeah, they brought a vort regarding conditioner. Maybe conditioner is on it more. Not sure. I don't really use conditioner, so I'm not sure. What is the halacha of one is unable to wash with hot water for some reason? You're somewhere where there's no hot water available. May she still go to the mikveh? So the Ramah writes that washing in hot water and with mikveh-friendly cleaning products is preferable. But if one washes in cold water, or even with a product that tends to harden the hair, so long as she sees that her hair is not tied, she's permitted to go to the mikveh. Right? Kol zeh lechatchila. Everything we've learned so far tonight is lechatchila. This is the way they're supposed to do it. But b'di'evet, if they didn't have it, even if she used some of these agents that they said entangle the hair, as long as as long as she checks herself afterwards, let's say she rinsed it with cold water and she used these items and it didn't entangle her hair, surely it's permitted for her to go to the mikvah. The Gemara Nida and Shulchan Aruch also state that aside from Ezra's takana that a woman must wash her hair, the requirement of Chafifa includes washing the folds in her body, such as the armpit with water. A man should teach his household any creases that she has on her body, the armpit, perhaps underneath the breast, other areas that are folds, those all have to be washed. Shulchan Aruch says, right? The armpit, which is the private parts, the Mari explains the reason for this, and for the other area bodies that are included as folds. Any part of her body that has folds have to be washed. Why? There could be something there that's a chatzitza, dirt. And what are the folds? Elohem kamteh, Beis HaShechi, the armpit. Tachas HaTzavar, underneath her neck. Bein HaRaglaim, between her legs. Tachas HaDadim, underneath the breast. Bein HaTzbos Raglea, between her toes. Uvikfolim HaChitzoniim Shel Oznea. All these various creases in the ear. Other areas, wrinkles when she gets older. Going to be Isha Bailas Basar if she's heavy. Ozakena. So these are all the areas that have to be washed and cleaned prior to tefillah. Another common practice aspect of Chafifa is to wash in a bathtub before immersing. The reason for the custom is that we have seen the accepted halacha requires a woman to wash her entire body, which is most easily done by taking a bath. But you don't have to take a bath. You can suffice with showering, as noted by the Mara Cohen. The minig is to do it in a bathtub. The shower is fine. However, minhag toiv would be in a bath. Taking a nice bath for a period of time will clean the body well. She doesn't have to remain an excessive amount of time. He says that if you sit in the water for too long, so you get folds, you get wrinkles. And she might be concerned about that, so better not to sit in there for too long. We will conclude this section by noting that there are a great many details surrounding this preparation for immersion, as the consequences of having relations in a state of impurity are severe. It is therefore only natural for a person to mistrust that she has purified herself properly. Nevertheless, the Ramban writes that a woman need not be overly concerned and doubt the efficacy of her immersion, so long as she has followed the prescribed guidelines. I just want to read this footnote, and I found this footnote amazing. In extreme cases, if one is excessively nervous and self-doubting regarding chatzitzos and other challenges surrounding her immersion, one should consult a mental health professional concerning the possibility of obsessive compulsive disorder or other related challenges. Such challenges may manifest themselves in a wide variety of areas of halacha, including kashrus and laws of hand washing, but they may be more likely to be manifest in cases of particularly stringent mitzvahs such as Nit and Chametz on Pesach. Mental illness must not be confused for great piety. I'm sure this is put in there because I'm sure morei halacha who deal with women like all the time encounter women that are like this, that they might identify sort of extreme concern bordering on what they're describing here, like OCD or something like that. I think that's why, because it's probably in reality that they meet people like that who take this, take it extreme, and therefore might be a problem.
Yeah, you should show this to Tzvika because of refuat hanefesh and refuat haguf.
Right.
It's interesting that they pick out Nida and Pesach as both the areas where this happens.
Right, but we know people. I mean, we know that our wives get very nervous about things.
Obsessive.
Right. Let's see what the Ram.
No, I remember Reb David Feinstein once told us, might be of interest. He said that his wife gets very nervous before Pesach, and the way he calms her down, Reb David Feinstein himself, is he says to Rebbetzin, he said, I guarantee you, when we sit down at the table for the Seder, there will not be any chametz on the table. That's what he told us in Shir once. That calmed her down.
Okay. So let's read this from Banu. The Ramban is telling people, you know what? Don't be too machmir. You're in doubt. You want to say that the tefillah is not kosher. There's no end. Rather, if you follow the prescribed, she washed her hair, the sarka b'masrek, and she combed her hair. The chafifa v'rachza kol gufa b'chamin. She scrubbed and washed and rinsed her body with hot water. And v'nizra levilti tiga mishum davar chotzitz. And then on the way to the mikveh, she's careful that she didn't touch a piece of dirt that's going to cause a chatzitza. V'taset filoso b'pshitus evoreh v'chol guf. And she, opens up her limbs when she goes into the mikveh, and she makes sure that the mayim goes into the whole body. And we're going to learn the mitzvahs of how they go in the mikveh. Lo yachnis adam rosher b'sveikas hachamuros. At that point, that's it. No more sveikas. Asher ein lahem ketz v'sof kigon atzma. For example, maybe I closed my eyes too tight, and therefore the water didn't go where it's supposed to go. Or or maybe I pressed my lips too firmly. Who can know, did she press too hard, not press too hard? So the Ramban is saying, they should relax. Now, when are you supposed to do this chafifa? What's the timing of it? So in order to be sure that the chafifa effectively ensures that no chatzitza is present during the tefillah, the chafifa should be done shortly before the tefillah. The Gemara Nida discusses the optimal time for chafifa on a weekday, and what about after Shabbos? Dorash Rava. Isha choifefes be'erev Shabbos, v'toveles b'motzei Shabbos. She could wash her hair erev Shabbos, and it's still not too much of a delay where she could go to the mikveh motzei Shabbos. Meaning, we're talking about someone whose time is to go to the mikveh motzei Shabbos. But let's say she doesn't have enough time or opportunity motzei Shabbos to do the chafifa, so she wants to do the chafifa erev Shabbos. Rava says it's not a problem. It's not too much of a delay. Amalei Rav Papa Rav of Harshalach Ravin Beigr said, what do you mean? Ravin sent a letter that Isha lo tochov be'erev Shabbos v'til b'motzei Shabbos. That's too much of a delay. V'tomal atzmacha. And you should question yourself. Not only that, the way you're describing, she's doing the Chafifa in the daytime and doing the tefillah at night, and we have a principle, haba'in tekef lechafifa tefillah v'leka, and we're supposed to do the Chafifa at night as well, right before the mikveh, because you're supposed to do the Chafifa right before the tefillah. So how could you paskin like this, Rava, says Rav Papa. So Hadar Uki Rava Memorale. Rava appointed a moira, a translator, because they would speak in Hebrew, and the Amoira would translate it into Aramaic, which was the lingua franca in Bavel, Vidorash. And he darshed, Dvorm Shomarti Lifnechem Tosen Biyodi. Look at these Talmidei Chachamim were so unbelievable that they self-deprecated themselves. That means he publicly said that the things that I said were wrong. Baram Kachanu Mishmeid Rav Yochanan. In fact, it was said in the name of Rav Yochanan. Isha loy toikov be'erev Shabbos v'titbol b'motzei Shabbos. She should not wash her hair Friday for the Motzei Shabbos tefillah. V'tomal atzmacha hei chofeves b'yom teveles b'layla. And in fact, how could there be chafifa in the yom and teveles b'layla? Being in some chafifa tefillah v'leka. So v'hilchasa isha chofeves b'yom v'teveles b'layla. But v'hilchasa isha loy tochuf ela b'layla. So there are two opposing hilchasas. One says that you can do the washing in the daytime and go to the mikveh at night. And another halacha says she can only do the washing at night. So kasha hilchasa hilchasa. So how could these two halachas seem to be in conflict? Loy kasha, hada efshar, hada loy efshar. That means sometimes if it's impossible, she'll have to wash during the day, and other times she'll wash at night. And we'll see how the Rishonim learn this Gemara regarding Efshar and Lo Efshar. According to the Gemara, Rava concludes that one should not perform Chafifa on Friday if the immersion is scheduled for Motzei Shabbos, because it's too much of a delay. It's not Tekef Tefillah Chafifa. The Gemara then resolves contradictory conclusions about what's ideal. Should the Chafifa be done at night or during the day? By stating that one ruling where it says it can be done in the day is when it is possible, and the other applies when it is not possible. The Gemara, though, didn't spell out which ruling applies in which circumstance. And in fact, there's a major dispute among the Rishonim how to learn this Gemara. Some Rishonim, including Rash, and this is the fascinating part of Tzurba, where we really see the halachic process, how based on this Gemara, the different Rishonim understood the Gemara differently, which led to the halacha that we have. Some Rishonim, in understanding the Gemara, including Rashi, interpret the reference to possible, not possible, as referring to performing Chafifa during the daytime. Thus, if it's possible to perform Chafifa during the day prior to the immersion, meaning when the day is Monday, and she could do the Chafifa during the day and then go to the mikveh at night, she can do so. But if it's not possible, because it's Shabbos or Yontif, let's say it's Shabbos and she can only go to the mikveh Motzei Shabbos, you can't do the Chafifa on Shabbos, there she'll have to do it at night and then go to the mikveh. But if it's on a Tuesday, or let's say Yontif is on a Wednesday, but they can't do the Chafifa on Yontif, so they do it Wednesday night. Says Rashi, when she can do it, like on a weekday, she can do Chafifa b'yom. And then she should do the Chafifa right before the mikvah, which is certainly at night, and she should do the Chafifa at night as well. Rashi explains elsewhere in the sugya that conceptually, washing during the day is preferable to washing at night. Why? Because a woman will be more rushed when washing at night shortly before the immersion. Means as you get closer time to the tefillah, the woman is very anxious to go home and be with her husband. So they're concerned that if you do it at night, they're going to rush, which is going to be more leisurely in the daytime. So that's the tzad to say that the chafifa in the daytime is preferable, right? When you prefer the chafifa during the day, she's more likely to be less thorough in her haste. That's Shitas Rashi, right? Bekoshi yitir laharchik chafifsasa betfilasa kol kach. The Chachamim weren't that happy distancing the washing from the tefillah that much, but it was permitted. The reason they allowed the chafifa to happen during the day, because if they allow it at night, we're concerned that she's not going to wash properly. And this is a phrase of Chazal, she is desirous to go home already and have relations. So therefore, better to do it in the daytime, according to this approach. Now, as opposed to the approach of Rashi, a number of other Rishonim, including the Shiltos, the Rambam, the Rashba, hold that it's preferable for her to wash by night rather than by day. Says the Rashba, that was one halacha, that she washes in the day and does feel at night. And then we have that other halacha, and now the Rashba is pointing out to us that the logic is switched. The Ilmar Zutra Rav Chinana Misura, the Mechad b'miyama, u'lemitvel b'leila tfei adiv. For Mar Zutra, it's better for them to wash in the daytime and then go to mikveh at night. The Chafifa b'leila mitoch shemum lebeisa dima lo Chafifa shapir. Because of this reason we quoted in Rashi before, that if we ever do it at night, she's going to be too anxious to get home already, and she's not going to wash properly. V'hashtam rinan. The other svar is the mechav b'layla tfei adif. On the other hand, it might be better to wash at night. Ki heichid to have a chafifa samach l'tfila. So there's this tension between you want to have the least amount of time in between the chafifa and tefillah, because she's going to be very clean, less chance for chatzitza there. On the other hand, we're concerned that if she does the chafifa at night, she's not going to do a good job. Raminon, we ask Kasha Hilchasai Hilchasa. Like Kasha says the Rashba, Hadeh Efshar and Loy Efshar. It means he explains this sugi like this. Kloimer, Efshar Balayla, Kigon de Tfilas B'chol, when it's possible for her to do the tefillah at night, for example, on a regular weekday, she should only do her chafifa in the daytime. She should only do her chafifa at night. Now, if lo efshar b'layla, let's say she can't do it at night. Kigon shetfilos b'shabbos b'yontiv. Chayfus b'yom v'tevelos b'layla. Then she would do but she'd have to do the chafifa for the day before. Maybe she doesn't have enough time at night, Motzei Shabbos or Motzei Yontiv, to do both, right? According to the second approach, the Gemara's resolution of possible, not possible, refers to being possible to immerse at night, i.e. when it's not Shabbos. Thus, when it's not Shabbos, it's preferable to perform the Chafifa at night closer to the time of the Tefillah, even at the risk of potentially hurrying the preparations. That's how the Rashba learns. But if the immersion is on Shabbos or Yontiv, then she should perform the Chafifa in the afternoon before Shabbos Yontiv begins. Right? Here we're talking about like Friday night, or let's say Erev Yontif, and her night of going to the mikveh is either Friday night or the night of Yontif. Well, there you cannot do the Chafifa on Shabbos or on Yontif. Then therefore she clearly has to do it in the daytime. So we see Rashi and the Rashba are learning differently. So in light of the conflicting interpretations, the Rosh writes that the Abdil practice on a weekday is to accommodate both positions. Accordingly, women begin their washing and preparations before nightfall, and they continue after nightfall. So we're basically Makayim both. She does a little bit in the daytime and at night. Says the Rosh, Umiugam leperes hashiltis nogu minig yafen nashim shalon shemekhilas lachol bibad yom. The Rosh says that our women did a good minig because they followed the shiltis that some of the washing should be in the daytime, because we worry that if she did it only at night, she wouldn't spend enough time doing it. And then she continues washing until it's dark. They take their comb with them and they comb themselves at the mikveh. The Shulchan Aruch adopts the position of the Shiltis, Rambam, and Rashba that she should perform the Chafifa shortly before her immersion. However, he also cites the proper practice to begin the Chafifa while it's still daytime. So he accepts this sort of this rosh. He says, really, we should do it right before the tefillah. Start in the daytime. She should do it until the night. And then go to the mikvah. She should take the comb with her to the mikvah and comb her hair there as well. What does the Ramah say? Let's say it's Friday night. She can't do the Chafifa at night, so she has to do it in the daytime. Or let's say she can't do it by Yom. Let's say it's Shabbos or Yontif, and she has to go Motzei Yontif or Shabbos. She can do either. She should not run home. She should take her time in the washing process, and that will not be a problem. So we have seen that the poskim repeatedly emphasize the necessity to do closely juxtapose the chafifa to the tefillah. What are the exact parameters of this juxtaposition? Rav Vosner reports a tradition defining it as 3 hours. It means it shouldn't be more than 3 hours. Though he acknowledges that when the weather is hot, it should be performed even closer to the time of the immersion, and that in general is recommended to perform the chafifa as soon as possible before the immersion. Shir samach, when it says samach l'tefillah, aniska b'derech klal b'shulchan aruch hu chatzi shah. Normally, samach means a half hour. Kile'inyan mincha, sfir sa'omer, ubdikas chametz. Like there it says, on the basis of the Mishnah, the poskim write that a person may not engage in a number of activities during the period immediately preceding the time designated for certain mitzvahs, such as, for example, 30 minutes before mincha, you shouldn't be doing anything because you're not allowed to do certain activities because it might come you like to start a meal or something like that because it's going to interfere with mincha. 30 minutes before Tzurba M'Rabanan, same thing with Dichas Chametz. So normally, Rav Vosner is warning us that normally the word samuch, next to or near to, usually means 30 minutes. Ach le'inyan zeh, kasav b'shor meishiv, that the Kabbalah, it's been received in tradition, the shalosh sha'os nechsav samach l'tfilas, that the 3 hour period is what referred to when it says next to the tefillah. Kol makom lechatchila yesh lismach mamish. You should try to do it as soon as the tefillah, before the tefillah as possible. Uvakayet shemezim, during the summer when there's sweat, yesh lizar yoyse, you should even be more careful about that. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu writes that although according to Shulchan Aruch, a woman should begin the chafifa shortly before sunset, nowadays it's often not possible to do so, and she should wash it whatever time she knows will be most effective. All of this says the Darchei Tahara is l'chatchila. A woman who knows that if she washes herself during the daytime, it's going to be much better, she should certainly tachlof b'yom. Between the time when she washes and goes to the mikvah, she's got to be careful to avoid chatzitzas. She can also do it at night. If she's too busy and doing it too quickly in the daytime. And for example, her schedule happens to be that at night she's free. She should make sure she shampoo and wash her body thoroughly. The process should take approximately 1 hour. Rav Vosner, on the other hand, insists that if it's possible, one should begin the chafifa before the end of the day, And it's so important to ensure proper chafif that it even takes precedence over other mitzvos. Near l'chadchila yesh la'achmer mod la'chil b'chafifa mibod yom. Achim lo itchila in tzarech litchos atfila. If she didn't start in the daytime, you don't have to push off the tefillah. Ela tachov shir shah, she should watch for at least an hour. If she doesn't have an hour, yesh lisho l'chacham. B'shas atchakol l'tzarech. Gon shatzuk l'tzarech parnasa efshel la'akel. Let's say for parnasa reasons, she doesn't have enough time to do an hour, you can be makel. The im kishetachov bayom. But if she's going to wash in the daytime, and there's going to be a hefsek yoiser mishal shoy, it's going to be a hefsek more than 3 hours. That's already eno samuch. Yesh al kolpanim lachzer v'lichov tzas b'layla. She has to go back and wash herself a little bit at night. Va'avrachei koilel nirish etzrichim mishtane lachzer lebeisam kedei shetucha leilech bizman. He reminds the kollel students that they should adjust their schedules, make sure to go home so that their wives go to the mikvah on time. It justifies the students leaving the kollel early because it's a matter of mitzvah. One who performs the chafif at night must still make sure to do so carefully and avoid the concern raised by Rashi that she's going to do it too quickly. For this reason, many poskim, such as the Shach, recommend setting aside an hour for her preparations, shows that she does not cut corners in her haste to go home to her husband. Od cause of Rav Shlomo Luria, the Marshal, Almasha Nagu Mikedem Laskil Lachov Piyom, that there was this tradition to already start from the daytime. Ve'atat tiknu Lachov Palayla, but now the takonas do it at night. Ve'tasuk b'chafifa davka sha'achas, she should spend 1 hour. Shalote mehuma lebesa, shouldn't be running home. Shori afilu l'Rashi. This will be permitted according to Rashi, even according to Rashi. Because we're concerned that others should not detect they're going for tznius reasons. They might be so modest that they're going to end up not going to the mikveh. That's not appropriate. So Rav Wozner understands the Marshal to be referring to a full hour of 60 minutes. But he acknowledges that in situations of great need, you could be lenient with a preparation of even 30 minutes. Shir zeu shah dafka. Shkos v'achas mesrim v'arbim shos b'yom, 1 out of 24 hours. The low shah's money, it's not halachic hours, which might be only 50 minutes, certain times of the year, like in the winter. They should leave a watch. You can make as few time as 30 minutes. Vishir Shanim called Tzorchei Chafifa. That's everything. The varchitza, the gzizat zipornayim, cutting the fingernails. You don't have to sit in the water for an hour. It's all the process. If she starts in the daytime, wasn't that she should there for an hour? That's just a chumrah. That if we were concerned that if she did it at night, she wasn't going to spend enough time. And that's why they gave a time of an hour. Duadin bayom is the same shear in the daytime, at least 30 minutes. Many generations would spend an hour. You spend an hour. The mikvahs in large cities, people come every night and they perform, their preparations in the mikvah, but there's no possibility. Nobody can stay for an hour. You won't get everybody toifel. So for practical reasons, he allows 30 minutes. In contrast to Rav Wozner's understanding of Chafifa taking a full hour, Rav Moshe Feinstein understands the Marshal to mean that one should perform the preparation slowly and in a relaxed manner. However long it takes to perform the Chafifa in this manner is sufficient. But a full hour is unnecessary if it's done in a slow and a relaxed manner. Lachein Tov Yoser, says Rav Moshe, Lasos Katzatz Marshal, Av she'ein sham ba'mikvah takona zu l'chol hanoshim. if let's say the mikveh doesn't have that requirement for everybody, let's say a woman knows that she can wash herself it takes her less than an hour to do it in a relaxed way. And the anal sar, so she doesn't have long hair. Tikva kolponim is mana yedula. She should make an appointment with enough time that she knows. Shetuchalasos chafifas tova b'metinus below meirus. Relax, not rushing. Shkodim azman shetikva lo tiflo b'shum ofen. And she shouldn't go to the mikveh before she spends that time. The teitz b'zeh yesh dei hashitas Rashi v'shiltos. Ketzas Marshal. Based on Rav Moshe and the recommendation of the Marshal, you're fulfilling both the shitas of Rashi and the shiltos, and everybody is happy. Now, what about Shabbos? The instance of tefillah on immediately, either on Shabbos or after Shabbos, creates unique challenges with respect to the juxtaposition with the Chafifa. Since the Chafifa may not be formed on Shabbos or Yontiv, how and when should it be done? So according to all opinions, when a woman immerses on Friday night, she must perform Chafifa before Shabbos. Right? Is dana lo tefillah b'leil Shabbos, tichof b'yom. No question, she has to do the washing in the daytime. The Darchei Tahara elaborates that she must give herself enough time Friday afternoon to perform the Chafifa. And make sure she has become dirty afterwards. She has to check herself before the tefillah. Isha tzricha litvol b'leil Shabbos, tichvov be'erev Shabbos. She washes be'erev Shabbos. Rak shetizor litikonin ezman chafifasa. She should set aside the time. So she should do it calmly. Make sure that she doesn't get dirty. If she should check herself before in the mikveh. If between washing and went to the mikveh, she should wash off the dirty area with hot water, as long as it was huchmu be'erev Shabbos. And the liquid soap, like Yaakov Yellen told us that when they would bring to Rav Moshe various soaps, you could use liquid soap because you can't use hard soap because of the malacha of shchika, of rubbing and scraping. What about Motzei Shabbos? What preparation, of any, may be done before Shabbos if a woman's immersion is scheduled for after Shabbos? The Shulchan Aruch rules, in accordance with the Shiltos, that she should perform the Chafifa at night after Shabbos, right? Motzei Shabbos, that's where she do the Chafifa. While the Ramah, based on Rashi and the Tur, says that she should perform the bulk of the preparations Erev Shabbos, during the day. Even though there's a long gap between Friday afternoon and Motzei Shabbos, that's Machlokas, the Maran versus the Ramah. Chal tfilas Motzei Shabbos, she can't wash on Shabbos, tochov b'leil tfilas. But the Ramah says, she should already wash herself well Friday afternoon. She has to go and wash again Motzei Shabbos a little bit and comb. The Shach adds that for Ashkenazim, this proper custom of the Ramah is the strict halacha. She's obligated to perform Chafifa Friday afternoon if she goes to the mikveh Motzei Shabbos. The kachu ikra din shetirchotz v'tirchof eidei be'erev Shabbos v'tirchotz v'tochel Motzei Shabbos gamkein. So we saw above that according to Rav Eliyahu nowadays, when it's easy, convenient to wash at night, it's entirely permitted to perform the Chafifa at night. Indeed, Rav Eliyahu writes, with regard to this case of tefillah after Shabbos, as well, that even according to Ramah, she should perform the entire Chafifa process after Shabbos, carefully and without haste. Sheila. This was a question asked to the Rav Eliyahu. Isha shetzricha lidvol b'motzei Shabbos kodesh. Tzricha lichvol b'yom shishi? Does she have to bathe Friday afternoon? Does she have to do the process again? Shuva. B'yameinu, yishmayim chaim b'layla b'kalut. So first of all, in the time of the Ramah in Poland, in Krakow, in 1540, wasn't so pashut that you could have hot water. So the Mordechai is pointing out that in our time, where Saturday night you can have easy hot water. Yotemi mashaya b'meimeim, so nitin lisrachetz benachatz motzei Shabbos. It doesn't have to spend hours heating up the water. That who knows how many hours it took. Here, she can very calmly bathe herself motzei Shabbos. V'lalechas miyad l'tfil, go immediately to the mikveh. Ve'ein tzarich la'achik esat tefillah machafifa kol kach harbe zman from erev Shabbos to motzei Shabbos. L'chein im yichol lochaf lichotz b'mtinus u'v'nachas motzei Shabbos kodesh tasa came. Now, if she can't do it in lav tachov be'erev Shabbos, v'tishmor tzatzma v'chatzitzos b'Shabbos, be careful not to have chatzitzos on Shabbos. V'tishtaf v'tzatzma shenis b'motzei Shabbos, she has to rinse herself motzei Shabbos as well. Nevertheless, many Ashkenazic poskim do mention, ideally, following the custom of the Ramah, of performing much of the primary Chafifa on Friday afternoon if possible, to comply with the opinions that hold one should not perform the entire Chafifa at night. And that's what Rav Forst recommends. What about immersion on Yontif following Shabbos? Right? Yontif is Motzei Shabbos. You have Shabbos and then Pesach starts Motzei Shabbos. How should the Chafifa be performed when the tefillah is scheduled for Yontif night that follows Shabbos? Or there's a Yontif Thursday and Friday, right? Like this, not this year, but some years, Sukkot is Thursday and Friday, the last days, and then you followed by Shabbos. You can't do the Chafifa not on Thursday, not on Friday, not on Shabbos. And then she has to go to the mikveh, Motzei Shabbos. Because washing and other aspects of preparation for immersion are severely limited or completely forbidden on Shabbos and Yontiv, there's no option in this case to simply wait until nightfall to begin full preparations. Consequently, the primary preparations are done before the onset of the Yontiv or Shabbos, such that there is a considerable gap between the Chafif and the immersion. The Gemara need addresses the question of how far apart one may separate the Chafif and Tefillah in this type of situation. Amar Ravuna, Isha choifefes be'echad b'Shabbos. She does her washing on Sunday. V'tovelas b'shlishi, but it goes to the mikveh Tuesday night. Shken Isha choifefes be'erev Shabbos. For example, she might do the washing Friday. V'tovelas b'motzei Shabbos. Go to the mikveh Saturday night. Another example. Isha choifefes be'echad b'Shabbos. V'tovelas b'revi b'Shabbos. You might even have a gap where she washes herself Sunday daytime and doesn't go to the mikveh until Wednesday night. That would be an example when Yontif, for example, starts Saturday night. Where you're going to have a huge separation. Rav Chizda Amar, Kulu Arminan Shekain Lo Arminan, Heichad Efshar Esher, Heichad Lo Efshar Lo Yashar. Where she can immerse immediately, she does. If she doesn't, she can't. Rav Yemer Amar Filu Shekain Nami Arminan. Labar Meisha Chavevs Bechad B'Shabbos V'Vez Chamisha B'Shabbos. The doing Sunday and going to mikveh Thursday night. L'motzei Shtei Yomim Tovim Sh'Rosh Hashanah Shlach Rosh Shabbos. Less of the Efshar. There's no other possibility. The Chavevs B'Layv Tavels B'Layla. There, she has to do the washing at night and go to the mikveh at night. The halach is like that. According to Gemara, it is permitted to perform Chafifa Erev Shabbos on Erev Yontiv, and then wait even 2 days to immerse, should Shabbos fall out adjacent to 2 days of Yontiv for Rosh Hashanah. Although the accepted halach is in accordance with Rav Chizda that this practice is not permitted at other times. This is the ruling given by the Shulchan Aruch as well, who adds that one should still examine herself shortly before the immersion. The Ramah adds that she must be extremely careful during the time between Chafif and Tefillah not to allow potential chatzitzos to remain there. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Chalel Tfilos b'Motzei Shabbos. If she's supposed to go to the mikveh Saturday night, and it's Yontif, she has shalachov, she can't wash herself Yontif, she can't do the Chafifa. So, Tochov Be'erev Shabbos. She has no other choice. She has to wash herself Friday afternoon. V'cheinim chalu shnei yamim tovim b'yom chamishi v'shishi. Rosh Hashanah falls Thursday and Friday. V'chalel tfilosa b'leil Shabbos. And her tefillah night is Friday night. she tochav b'yom revi'i b'Shabbos. She has to do her preparations Wednesday before Yontif. The tiksha shartek is bablu. She should tie up her hair so they don't become entangled. Says the Ramah, gam tizor b'yom shebena chafifa l'tfil mikol tinoifus. She has to be very careful about chatzitzas. V'shlo yid b'bak shum dover, nothing should stick to her. Gam inigias tafshil, not cooking, or metil levonim aktanim tizor, or when she feeds the children. Im efshel lizar, imem dvarim ani bokim. She should stay away from sticky things. V'im efshel lizar, gon she'ela mish yasim, she doesn't have a babysitter. O shetzrich liga ben b'shas achila. Ein lachush. That's not the end of the world. Kol makam tirchas yadel kol pam. If she wash herself, her hands shel tovel l'dei chatzitza, so she bought a chatzitza. Uvishos tefillah ta'ayin. When she goes to the mikvah, she has to watch herself carefully. V'tivda keitei kol gufa v'saras roisha shlo yadever chaytzitz. V'tadiach beis hastor b'mayim. She should watch her private areas, the hot water. Afilu b'yontiv, right? Because you can heat up water on yontiv. V'chein tichtzol shinea b'tov b'shas tefillah. She should brush her teeth. Not meat or bone. Under these circumstances, when the interval between preparation and immersion is prolonged due to Shabbos or Yontiv, she may eat meat, although meat will likely become stuck in her teeth. We are lenient for the sake of Kavod Shabbos and Yontiv, as long as she brushes her teeth afterwards, which is the modern equivalent of scrubbing teeth. Right? Isha choveves b'yom echad v'zveves b'yom echad. If she's washing one day and tefillah the other day, she's allowed to eat meat. Even though you have to worry that it gets it between her teeth. She has to brush her teeth. Make sure that there's no blood. Now, let's learn the final halacha tonight. What if the chafifa was not done, or it's done improperly? Right? We've seen the previous sections that in certain cases, such as with Shabbos and Yontif, it's acceptable to delay excessively between the preparation and the mikveh. So b'di'eved, chafifa performed significantly prior to the immersion may be valid in other cases as well. But what is the halach if a woman didn't perform any chafifa? Is her immersion valid? The Shulchan Aruch rules, based on the Rashba and other Rishonim, that such an immersion is not effective, even if she examined herself immediately after the immersion and discovered no obstructions or knotted hair. The reason is that it is distinctly possible that a hair had been knotted prior to the immersion and became loosened afterwards or fell out altogether. Bimei chol, the kol shekei b'yontiv, im chafav v'ayin atzma yom. If she washed during the day, and did the tefillah on another day, then also lo tefillah b'di'eved. We said the tefillah works. Even though she didn't do it like we normally want it done. Says the Shulchan Aruch, im lo chafifa klal, if she didn't do any preparation, lo also lo tefillah. The tefillah is not good. Even though she checked herself. Even if she washed herself after the tefillah, the Tzurba M'Rabanan and kondur hair, the lo matzah shum nima kosher. She didn't find a knotted hair. Lo also lo tefillah, because maybe it got away with it. The knot went away. She didn't check herself carefully. She also lo tefillah. Checking her body is, we said, in midoraisa, like we learned tonight. In the Shari Ora notes that according to Shulchan Aruch, the immersion would be valid if one performed chafifa on her hair and examined the rest of the body, but didn't wash the rest of the body. She didn't do any washing at all. That is, she washed her hair but didn't check her body. If she washed her hair at least, and checked her body, even without washing the body, also lat vila. So this is a really important psak. He holds like the shiltas that the chafif of the hair is the ikr part. And Rav Mordechai Eliyahu and Rav Vadia Yosef rule similarly. So that's a very important leniency that we learned tonight. Okay, any comments, questions, or aros, anything anybody wants to discuss?